The chamber of the Grand Alien Council was never silent. It was a place of argument, of constant debate, where hundreds of voices usually fought for attention. Yet today, as the main display flickered with incoming reports, the vast hall had fallen into an unnatural quiet. Every councillor's eyes were fixed on the holographic projection at the center of the room. It was not a trade dispute, not a minor border skirmish, not even the usual whispers of rebellion. What filled the chamber now was a single image, grainy, stretched with interference, but terrifying in its meaning. A massive shape had been detected in the void, a shape that should not exist. The overseer of defense, a tall, scaled being with ridges running along his skull, finally broke the silence. His voice trembled despite his attempt to sound calm. "It is no fabrication. Multiple sensors confirm. Something is moving along the outer borders. Something larger than any known vessel." A wave of disbelief rolled through the councillors. Some hissed, others growled. A few tried to laugh, but their voices carried no humor. "Impossible!" one councillor snapped. "No empire, no alliance, no hidden race could build a ship of that magnitude. You are being deceived." The overseer shook his head. He expanded the image. The shadow of the vessel stretched across the holographic grid, dwarfing the Empire's largest battleships. Weapons arrays jutted out like mountain ranges. Its hull shimmered with patterns no one recognized. "It is real," the overseer insisted, "and it is moving with deliberate speed. It is coming toward us." Another voice, quieter this time, broke the tension. An old councillor leaned forward, his tendrils twitching as if recalling a nightmare. "There was once a species, long ago, banished, broken, a race we swore never to speak of again." The younger councillors turned toward him in confusion. Few had even heard whispers of such a story. The records of that ancient war had been sealed, locked away to prevent fear from spreading. The old councillor's eyes darkened. "Humans." The words struck the chamber like a thunderclap. Several councillors stood from their seats in outrage. "Lies. They are extinct. Their world was destroyed. No being could survive that exile." But the overseer's trembling claw pointed back at the projection. "Then explain that." The ship had drawn closer, its silhouette becoming sharper. Even through the static, the sheer scale of the vessel was clear. It was more than a warship. It was a floating fortress, a moving city armed for annihilation. A hush swept the chamber again. This time it was not disbelief. It was fear. Across the galaxy, humans had been a legend, a cautionary tale told to frighten children. A predator species born from a harsh death world, driven to adapt, to fight, to endure. When the Empire had finally risen to dominance, humanity had resisted longer than anyone else. Even after their fleets were shattered, even after Earth itself burned, humans did not surrender. They fought until the Empire unleashed weapons too terrible to be spoken of. What survived was believed to be ash. Now, against every law of probability, against centuries of certainty, a ship was coming out of the void, and the whispers said it was human. The Speaker of the Council finally rose from his throne. His jeweled robes shimmered beneath the cold glow of the projection. His voice cut through the fear like a blade. "We cannot allow panic. If it is human, it will be destroyed. If it is a phantom, it will be erased. The Empire is eternal." His words were strong, but his eyes betrayed doubt. For even he could not explain how an extinct species could return with such power. Suddenly, the chamber lights dimmed. The hologram shifted. A new transmission broke through, carried across frequencies no alien system had ever used. It was not an automated signal. It was a voice, deep, harsh, familiar in its rhythm, though none had heard it in generations. "This is the Earthship Eternity. You stand in violation of human space. Stand down, or be destroyed." The entire council froze. The speaker's mouth opened, but no words came. Councillors stared at one another in disbelief. The silence that followed was not the silence of politics. It was the silence of prey that had just seen a predator step into the room. The hologram expanded again. The image of the warship sharpened, its black hull glinting with lines of white fire, as if the void itself bent around it. Alien soldiers who stood guard at the edges of the chamber could not look away. Their scales prickled, their hearts raced, their instincts screamed at them to flee. The overseer whispered almost to himself. If one ship is real, then what else did they build in the dark? The counselors did not answer. They could not. The warship filled the display, larger and larger, until the chamber seemed swallowed by its shadow. Every counselor felt the same dread, the same thought pressing into their minds. Humanity had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The fleet that guarded the border system was among the finest the Empire had ever assembled. Dozens of battleships, hundreds of cruisers, and countless fighters stood ready in tight formation. Their hulls shimmered with imperial markings of conquest, each vessel a monument to centuries of domination. Yet now, every soldier aboard those ships stared at the void with unsteady eyes. The object before them was no myth. It was real. The human warship loomed across the starfield, a leviathan of steel and fire. It moved with a slow, deliberate grace, as though it did not fear the thousands of weapons pointed at it. Its hull carried scars, deep lines carved by battles long past, yet it remained unbroken. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Admiral Koresh stood frozen. His mandibles clicked nervously as the deep voice echoed again across the comms. "This is the Earthship Eternity. You are trespassing in human territory. Withdraw or be erased." The words sent a shiver through every crew member. Few of them had ever heard the language of Earth. Fewer still had believed they ever would. Yet the translation systems worked perfectly, and the meaning was unmistakable. An officer turned to the Admiral, his crest trembling. So humanity was destroyed. Earth was burned. This must be an illusion, a weapon meant to trick us. Koresh wanted to agree. He wanted to dismiss it as a fabrication, some rebel hoax. But his instincts told him otherwise. He had been a soldier long enough to recognize the confidence of a predator. This was no illusion. This was real. Whispers spread among the crews of the fleet. Some spoke of ancient stories, hushed legends of the humans. A species born on a death world of storms and fire. Beings who survived where no others could. Soldiers who fought with tooth and claw, even when their weapons were gone. The Empire had fought them once, long before most living now had been born. The humans resisted longer than any foe in history. They fought even when the Empire turned their seas into poison and their skies into ash. When their cities burned, they fought from caves. When their fleets shattered, they fought with stolen vessels. They were the enemy that refused to die, and in the end, the Empire claimed victory not through honor, but through annihilation. Earth itself had been struck down, its surface rendered unlivable. The Council swore humanity was gone forever, yet here it stood, embodied in a single warship that dwarfed the greatest of Imperial vessels. On the flagship bridge, Admiral Koresh raised his clawed hand. His officers stiffened, awaiting the order. "We will test them," he growled. "One ship cannot match the might of the Empire. Fire a warning volley. Let us see how much of this eternity is shadow and how much is steel." Cannons roared across the fleet. Dozens of plasma blasts streaked through the void, lighting the stars with their fury. Explosions thundered against the shields of the eternity. For a moment, the alien crews cheered. The humans had taken the full force of an Imperial volley. No vessel could withstand that. The cheering stopped. The human ship did not move. Its hull shimmered, its shields bending the blasts like water breaking against a cliff. Not a single mark scarred its black armor. Koresh felt his heart sink. He had hoped, desperately, that the ship would falter, that the nightmare would break. Instead, the warship began to glow. Energy surged across its flanks, and the long barrels of its weapons extended like the awakening limbs of a giant. One shot fired. The Eternity's main cannon unleashed a beam of light so bright it blinded sensors across the fleet. The alien flagship shuddered as its screens filled with the sight of an entire battle group erased in an instant. Dozens of ships simply vanished, torn apart without even leaving wreckage behind. The silence that followed was more terrible than the blast itself. Koresh gripped the rail of his command throne. "Impossible," he whispered. "That was a weapon of mass scale. No ship could carry such power, but the proof was there, clear and undeniable. The humans had built something greater than any alien could imagine." The crew of the flagship looked at their admiral with wide, frightened eyes. Their voices trembled as they asked the question none dared speak aloud. If this is only one ship, what if they have more? Across the galaxy, in secret channels and forbidden archives, the whispers began to stir again. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had endured in silence, somewhere beyond the reach of the Empire, building weapons in the dark, waiting for the day they would return. The sight of the eternity was no accident. It was a message. On the bridge of the alien flagship, the Admiral's comms officer paled. "Sir, we are detecting strange signals, hidden transmissions. They are everywhere." Koresh snapped his head toward him. "What signals?" The officer swallowed hard. "They match the human ship's signature. Multiple sources, multiple directions. I think there are others." The Admiral turned back toward the display. The massive ship filled the screen, steady and unyielding, its weapons glowing faintly as if daring the Empire to attack again. Koresh realized then that this was not the return of one ship. This was the beginning of something far greater. The alien fleet held its formation, but tension rippled through every ship. The shadow of the human warship Eternity hung over them like a storm cloud, its size and silence more terrifying than any weapon. Crews whispered in fear. Officers barked to keep discipline, and across the void, 1,000 gun batteries waited for the order to fire again. On the flagship, Admiral Koresh stood rigid at his command throne, his claws dug into the metal armrest. He had seen battles, uprisings, rebellions crushed beneath the Empire's power, but nothing in his long career had prepared him for this. One human shot had wiped out an entire battle group. Dozens of ships erased in less than a second. The scanners had no explanation. The readings bent logic itself. Still, Koresh was a soldier of the Empire. To falter now was unthinkable. He forced his voice steady as he spoke to the fleet. "All ships maintain position. We are the Empire. We do not run from ghosts. This vessel is powerful, yes, but it is only one. We have numbers. We will overwhelm it." The order spread through the comms. Across the formation, weapons came alive again. Plasma cannons charged. Missile bays opened. Fighter squadrons launched in swarms, filling the stars with their tiny darting forms. The crews steeled themselves. They would bury this human relic under sheer firepower. Koresh raised his arm. "Fire!" The void erupted. Hundreds of beams lanced forward, crisscrossing the darkness in a storm of light. Explosions bloomed against the Eternity's hull like 1,000 suns. The sheer volume of fire shook the space around them, rattling even the alien ships themselves with their own fury. And yet, the human warship remained untouched. Its shields shimmered, bending and twisting like a living thing. The plasma dissolved, the missiles disintegrated, the fighters' attacks were swallowed as though they had struck an ocean instead of metal. The alien crews fell silent. Fear spread like a virus. Then the Eternity answered. Without warning, lines of white light spread along its hull. The glow intensified until the ship seemed carved out of a star. Massive gun batteries extended, each one the size of an Imperial destroyer. The void trembled as the weapons locked onto their targets. One after another, the cannons fired. The beams were not plasma. They were not missiles. They were something else entirely. Energy so pure that sensors could not name it. Light so bright it burned across every monitor. The alien fleet's front line disintegrated. Ships cracked apart like toys, torn into fragments before their crews even realized they had been hit. A single salvo, and hundreds of lives were gone. Admiral Koresh's mandibles clicked in panic. His officers shouted for retreat, but he shook his head violently. No retreat. Hold the line. They cannot fight us all. But even he no longer believed his own words. Across the fleet, soldiers began to panic. The younger officers had never fought a foe like this. The Empire had always been the predator, the unstoppable force. Now they were prey. The Eternity kept advancing, slow and relentless. Each time it fired, another wave of alien ships vanished from existence. The formation broke apart as captains tried to maneuver, desperate to find a blind spot. But the human ship moved, as though it saw every move before it happened. On the bridge of the flagship, Koresh's comms officer screamed, "Admiral! Fighters report their systems shutting down." Something is disrupting them. They cannot control their craft, Koresh spun. How? The answer came in a low, cold voice, carried across every channel. You think numbers matter, the human commander said. You think firepower matters. You forget what humanity is. For a moment, even the stars seemed to go quiet. The alien crews froze as the human's words sank in. The commander spoke again, sharper this time. Humanity is survival. Humanity is war. We build in silence, and when we rise unstoppable. Koresh clenched his claws until they bled. His heart hammered in his chest. His officers looked to him with wide, desperate eyes. He wanted to order retreat. He wanted to run. But the chains of honor and fear of the council kept his tongue still. Admiral, one officer whispered, what are they? How can they do this? Koresh had no answer. The Eternity fired again. Another squadron of cruisers vanished into nothingness. The Empire's proud fleet was being butchered ship by ship, and the humans had not even broken formation. The crew of the flagship could not look away. The sheer power of that ship bent their courage into dust. Then alarms shrieked. The comms officer turned pale. Admiral. New readings. Multiple void breaches detected. They match the Eternity's signature. They are ships. More ships. Koresh's mandibles opened in disbelief. What did you say? The holographic display shifted. Across the stars, dark shapes began to emerge. First one, then two, then a dozen. Each one as large as the Eternity. Each one glowing with that same white fire. The human voice returned, echoing through the void with iron certainty. You thought we were gone. You thought you had destroyed us. But humanity does not die. Humanity waits. And now, humanity returns, the alien crews gasped. The council back on the home world would be thrown into chaos. The Emperor himself would demand answers. Admiral Koresh felt the truth strike him like a blade. This was no isolated ship. This was no lone survivor of a dead race. This was the first strike of a hidden fleet. The Empire's proud fleet was in chaos. Wreckage floated where once perfect formations had stood. Plasma fires burned in silence across the void. Fragments of shattered ships drifting like ashes in a cold wind. What remained of the Armada struggled to regroup, their formations broken, their courage shattered, and still the human warship Eternity advanced. But the true terror had not yet unfolded. Behind it, shapes were appearing. More ships tearing through the void like predators emerging from the dark ocean. Each one was massive, each one radiating the same unearthly power. Their hulls bore scars and strange markings, as if they had fought wars in a place no alien had ever seen. On the alien flagship, Admiral Koresh could hardly breathe. His mind refused to accept what his eyes told him. His fleet had not faced a relic of the past. They had stumbled into something far worse. This is not possible, he rasped. They cannot have survived. They cannot have built all of this in silence. But deep down, he knew the truth. Across the galaxy, old whispers stirred. Humanity had never surrendered. Humanity had never gone extinct. They had vanished into the void, into forgotten corners of space, carrying their rage and their genius with them. While the Empire grew complacent, basking in power, the humans had been waiting, watching, building. One of Koresh's junior officers trembled as he spoke. Admiral, the comms interceptors. We are picking up encrypted traffic. Human transmissions. They are coordinating, sir. This is a fleet, Koresh turned sharply. How many? The officer's eyes darkened. We cannot count. Too many signals. Dozens, perhaps more. The Admiral staggered back against his throne. The Empire had mocked the humans for being few, for being fragile, for being broken. But here now was the proof of their patience. A people who had endured hell itself had returned, armed with weapons the Empire could not understand. Back in the heart of the Empire, the Grand Council received the first intercepted footage. Holograms displayed the human fleet as it emerged from the void. Gasps and cries of fear filled the chamber. "It cannot be," one councillor shouted. "We burned their world. We shattered their fleets. No species survives such ruin." The ghost of humanity had returned, and its shadow fell over every star. Back at the battlefront, the alien fleet tried once more to rally. Commanders barked orders, fighters swarmed, plasma batteries unleashed wave after wave. But the humans seemed untouchable. Their ships glided through the firestorm as if shielded by the void itself. Every counterattack met only silence and then destruction. On the bridge of the eternity, the human commander watched with cold eyes. His crew moved with disciplined precision. These were not rookies. These were soldiers forged by exile, raised in hardship no alien could imagine. "Target their flagship," the commander ordered. His voice was calm, steady, as though this battle was nothing more than routine. Alarms rang on Koresh's bridge. His officers screamed as sensors locked onto them. The admiral's mandibles clicked in panic. "Evasive! Shields to full, now!" But the warning came too late. The Eternity fired. A beam of light consumed space itself, ripping through layers of shielding as if they were mist. The alien flagship shook violently. Consoles exploded. Officers were thrown from their stations. Koresh clung to his throne, smoke filling his vision. For the first time in his life, the admiral felt true despair. And still, the humans did not speak of peace. They did not speak of surrender. They gave no quarter. Their silence was worse than any threat. On the council world, the speaker received the latest report. His skin paled as he read the final line. "The human fleet is not attacking at random. Their course is clear. They are moving toward Earth." The chamber erupted in confusion. "Earth is dead," one councillor shouted. "There is nothing left but ash." But the old councillor leaned forward, his eyes dark with certainty. "Then why are they going there? What do they know that we do not?" The hologram updated. More human ships were emerging from the void, their numbers growing with every passing hour. The Empire had believed humanity extinct. Now the galaxy learned the truth. Humanity had not died. Humanity had become a ghost, haunting the stars, waiting for the moment to return. And that moment had come. The alien council chamber shook with panic. Reports flowed in faster than they could be read, each one more disturbing than the last. The human fleet was not scattering. It was not hunting colonies or raiding borders. It was moving with purpose, following a direct course toward Earth. For centuries, Earth had been dismissed as a ruin, a scarred world left to rot after the Empire's bombardment. Its atmosphere poisoned, its surface blackened, its oceans turned to lifeless sludge. The official records declared it uninhabitable. Yet now, the human fleet was heading there as if returning home. Councillors shouted over one another. Some demanded immediate mobilization. Others insisted it was a trap. A few whispered what none dared to admit aloud. If humans had survived even there, then the Empire had never truly won. The old councillor, his voice cracked but steady, silenced them. "You all believed we erased them. You believed the fire cleansed their world. I warned you, humanity does not yield. They are not like us. They thrive in the places we cannot endure. And if Earth still stands, then our darkest fear has returned." The councillors exchanged fearful looks. For the first time, the Empire felt small. Far from their chamber, a lone reconnaissance drone pierced the void. Small, fast, and hidden, it slipped past the edges of the human formation, desperate to record whatever truth lay at their destination. Its sensors whirred. Its lenses opened. And then the drone's view changed. There it was, Earth. The image spread across the alien screens in real time. The councillors gasped. Officers aboard the fleet froze in disbelief. Civilians who intercepted the transmission dropped to their knees. Earth was not dead. The blue oceans glittered once again beneath the sunlight. Clouds swirled across continents green with life. Where there had once been wasteland, vast cities now shone like jewels against the planet's surface. Orbital rings encircled the world, studded with weapons and shipyards. Gigantic stations hung in orbit like guardians. The human homeworld had risen from its ashes, and it had become a fortress. The overseer of defense whispered the words no one wanted to hear. They rebuilt. In secret, in silence. While we laughed at their ashes, they turned their grave into a citadel. The chamber erupted in chaos. Impossible! The atmosphere was ruined. We poisoned the seas. Nothing could grow there again. They had no resources, no allies, no hope. But the evidence filled the skies of Earth. Against every law of reason, the humans had defied extinction. On the bridge of the eternity, the human commander stood tall, staring at the sight of Earth through the wide observation window. His scarred face softened only for a moment as the planet's oceans and continents glimmered before him. Generations of sacrifice had brought them here, exile, hardship, waiting, building. Now the fleet had returned to its heart. A young officer approached him. So the transmissions from the Empire are spreading. They know. The entire galaxy knows. The commander's lips curved into something between a smile and a snarl. Good, let them see. Let them remember. Back in the alien fleet, Admiral Koresh sat in silence, his mandibles trembling. His flagship still smoked from the earlier strike, his fleet shattered and demoralized. And now he saw Earth, alive, defended, stronger than ever. His officers looked to him for orders, but he gave none. There was nothing to say. The youngest among them whispered, voice heavy with dread. If they built this under our eyes, what else have they built that we cannot see? No one answered. On conquered worlds across the galaxy, the image of Earth spread like wildfire. To slaves and rebels, it was hope. To soldiers and civilians of the Empire, it was terror. For if humanity could survive that destruction, what could ever truly defeat them? The Grand Council argued endlessly, their voices cracking with fear. We must strike immediately. One shouted, no, we must hide this from the public. Fool! The public already knows. The people are whispering. They are afraid. The speaker's voice thundered across the hall. Then we will send the greatest armada the Empire has ever built. We will crush this rebellion before it spreads. But even as he spoke, new reports arrived. The human fleet was not just orbiting Earth. Signals indicated dozens, perhaps hundreds, of ships hidden in the asteroid belts. On the far side of the moon, deep within the orbital rings. Earth was no longer a dead world. It was the heart of a vast, hidden stronghold. The speaker's voice faltered. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's leader felt the shadow of something greater than his rule. They planned this, he whispered. The chamber grew cold. Above Earth, the Eternity and its sister ships took position like guardians of a throne. Lights rippled across the orbital rings as cannons powered up, each one capable of reducing a fleet to dust. The human commander gave a single order. His voice carried across the fleet, steady and certain. Prepare Earth for war. The alien counselors stared at the final transmission. Their eyes widened as new data scrolled across the feed. Human fleets were not only gathering at Earth, they were awakening across distant systems. Bursting from the void like hunters rising from the deep, the overseer's voice shook. It is not just Earth. They were never hiding in one place. They have colonies, strongholds. They are everywhere. The speaker's claws gripped the table. His composure broke. If this is true, then we are not facing survivors. He looked up, his voice a whisper of dread. We are facing the rebirth of an empire. The council chambers shook with the pounding of voices. Alien leaders shouted, threatened, and begged, their fear thick in the air. The image of Earth, restored, fortified, untouchable, still glowed across the central display. It was a vision none of them had thought possible, and it shattered centuries of arrogance in a single instant. The speaker slammed his claws against the table. Enough, humanity has shown its fangs. We must strike now, before their power spreads beyond control. If we hesitate, the empire itself will be undone. Every eye turned to him. His words carried the weight of desperation, but also authority. After a long pause, the Overseer of Defense gave a slow nod. "Very well. We will unleash the Armada." The word hung heavy. The Armada was not a fleet. It was the fleet, the combined strength of every sector, every star garrison, every reserve ship that the Empire could still command. It had been centuries since it was last summoned, meant only for the gravest of threats. Now it would be pointed at Earth. In the void between stars, preparations began. Dockyards glowed with activity as ancient battleships were dragged from their slumber, rearmed and reforged. Carriers, bristling with fighters, left their stations in endless streams. Titans, monstrous warships the size of small moons, were reactivated, their reactors thundering to life. The Empire had always mocked humans for their small ships, their fragile designs. But against Earth's rebirth, they would bring the full might of their legacy weapons. Admiral Koresh stood upon the bridge of his scarred flagship as new orders reached him. His fleet was to join the Armada. His heart twisted with dread. He had seen the humans fight. He had felt their fury firsthand. And now the Council wanted him to lead soldiers who no longer believed in victory. Still, he saluted the transmission. To disobey was to die. Far across the void, Earth prepared in silence. The orbital rings thrummed with power as cannons aligned and shields shimmered across their arcs. Fleets slid into position, each ship marked with the scars of exile and return. Drones patrolled the asteroid belts, their eyes sharp for the faintest approach. Within the war room of the eternity, the human commander studied the holographic map. He was calm, but his eyes burned with a fire no machine could measure. His staff waited for his command. "They will come," he said at last, "with everything they have. Because they must. The Empire has no choice now." His hand rose slowly, and the holomap shifted, revealing hundreds of red signals approaching from deep space. "They are gathering. Good, let them." The officers looked at him with a mix of fear and awe. The Empire's Armada was beyond anything they had faced before. Yet the commander's voice carried certainty. "This is the moment we waited for. Not survival, not hiding. This is our return." On distant worlds, whispers spread faster than fleets. Citizens of the Empire saw the images of Earth and wondered if the Council had lied. Conquered species long under alien rule began to hope. If humanity could rise again, perhaps the chains could be broken. In hidden networks and secret cells, rebel leaders sent coded messages to one another. The words were simple: "Earth lives. The fire has returned." At the edge of the galaxy, the Armada began to form. It was a sight so vast, it made even veterans tremble. Thousands upon thousands of warships filled the void, their engines blazing, their weapons charging. The flagships, towering above all, were shaped like leviathans of steel, each capable of burning continents to ash. Admiral Koresh stood among them, a small figure in a sea of destruction. His crew worked in silence, their fear unspoken but felt in every breath. He whispered to himself, though none could hear. They have no idea what waits for them on that world. Back in the council chamber, the speaker spoke the final words that sealed the fate of countless lives. The Armada will advance, erase Earth, erase humanity, this time forever. Hours later, in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, the first ripples appeared. The Armada had entered Sol. Sensors aboard the human fleet lit up with alarms. Officers ran to their stations. Across Earth's skies, sirens echoed as civilians poured into shelters deep beneath the surface. The orbital cannons rotated in unison, their barrels glowing. On the bridge of the eternity, the human commander watched the screen as countless red signals swarmed closer. His officers awaited his orders, their hands trembling, the silence stretched. Then his voice rang clear: "Hold position. Let them see Earth. Let them see what they tried to destroy." A young officer whispered, "Sir, the Armada is too large. Even with our fleets, even with Earth's defenses." The commander's eyes hardened. "Then we break them here, or we die as humans. There is no other way." The Armada poured into the system, a wave of fire and steel. The void itself seemed to shake with their engines. They came like gods of war, endless and unrelenting, and still the human fleet waited, silent, defiant. The alien admirals prepared to unleash the first strike, their weapons glowing like suns. Confidence surged in their veins. This was their moment to crush Earth once and for all. Then, before the order could be given, a new signal burst across the system. The humans were not alone. From the asteroid belts, hidden fleets powered up. From deep space, cloaked ships emerged. From the moons, buried cannons opened their eyes. Earth had not just rebuilt, it had become a trap. Admiral Koresh's blood ran cold. He whispered words that would soon echo across the galaxy. This is not a battle. This is their judgment. The void above Earth trembled. The armada of the Empire spread across the system like a sea of burning suns. Its ships countless, its weapons primed. Alien commanders roared orders, promising swift victory and final annihilation of humanity. But then, the darkness shifted. From the asteroid belt, ships rose, sleek, angular, forged in secrecy. Hidden human fleets, their hulls black against the stars, powered to life. From Luna's shadow, enormous cannons unfolded, energy cores glowing like the beating hearts of giants. From beneath the frozen crust of Europa, hangars split open, and swarms of human drones surged into space like a cloud of steel hornets. The Armada had come to crush Earth. Instead, it found itself encircled. On the flagship of the human fleet, the Eternity, silence ruled for a heartbeat. Officers stared at the tactical displays as blue markers, hidden human ships, multiplied across the screen. Surrounding the Armada, the commander stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes locked on the swelling sea of enemy signals. His voice was calm, but the air shook with its weight. Now, at once, Earth awakened. The orbital rings flared, their cannons spitting lances of white fire. Beams slashed across the void, carving through the Empire's front lines. Entire cruisers erupted in blossoms of flame, their wreckage drifting silently into the abyss. The hidden fleets surged forward, their weapons synchronized in a deadly rhythm. Drones darted between enemy capital ships, slashing at engines and reactors with precision strikes. The Armada, so certain of its dominance, reeled backward. Admiral Koresh gripped the rail of his command deck, mandibles clenched in disbelief. He had warned the Council. He had seen the fire of humanity before. But even he had not imagined this. They lured us here, he muttered. His crew turned, eyes wide as realization spread. This was a trap all along. Across the Armada, alien captains shouted conflicting orders. Some pressed forward in blind rage. Others tried to retreat, colliding with their own allies as chaos consumed their formations. The perfect wall of the Armada cracked, then began to shatter. On Earth's surface, billions watched the skies. Civilians huddled in bunkers, but their fear gave way to awe as the heavens lit up. Streams of fire streaked across the night as alien wreckage fell into the atmosphere. Children pointed upward, whispering the word their ancestors had once thought lost: victory. Back on the Eternity, the commander's eyes never left the screen. Do not chase them, he ordered. Cut their supply lines. Break their flagships. Leave their swarms blind. His officers moved with sharp precision. Generations of training for this very moment guided their hands. Every strike was calculated, every shot a message. Humanity had returned, and this time they would not be broken. The fleet moved like a single organism, their discipline unnerving even to the enemy. But the Armada was vast. For every alien ship that burned, another pressed forward. A Titan-class warship, larger than any human vessel, surged toward the orbital ring. Its colossal cannons charged, energy waves distorting the void around them. The human commander saw it. All fire on that ship. Dozens of beams converged, hammering its shields, slicing at its armor. The Titan roared back, unleashing a wave of destruction that shattered entire sections of the orbital ring. Earth's defense shuddered. On the ground, tremors rippled through cities. Screams filled the bunkers as dust rained from the ceilings. The commander's face darkened. Bring it down, now! A swarm of drones hurled themselves into the Titan's cannons, detonating in suicidal brilliance. The ship staggered. Human cruisers pounded its sides until its core ignited. With a soundless scream, the Titan erupted into a sunburst of fire, its wreckage scattering across space. Cheers erupted across Earth and the human fleet. But the commander did not cheer. His eyes turned to the tactical screen, where hundreds more enemy signals pressed closer. This is only the beginning. On the other side of the battlefield, Admiral Koresh slammed his fist against the console. His fleet was bleeding out, crushed by an enemy the Council had sworn was extinct. His officers looked to him for salvation, but his voice was grim. Signal the Armada. If we keep fighting like this, we will all die. We must... The words froze in his throat as a new alert flashed across the display. At the system's edge, new signals had appeared. Not human, not Empire, something else. On the Eternity, alarms blared. Officers leaned forward, faces pale, as the sensors confirmed what they were seeing. Another fleet was entering Sol, a third power. Its ships were jagged, angular, like predators born from nightmares. They bore no imperial markings, no human codes. The bridge fell silent. The commander's eyes narrowed. So, the galaxy finally shows its hand. On the display, the new fleet surged closer, weapons already glowing. The human officer closest to him whispered in horror, "Sir, they are targeting both of us." The commander straightened, his face set in stone. Then the real war begins? The Sol system burned. The Empire's armada clashed with humanity's hidden fleets, and for a moment, the impossible seemed within reach. Earth was holding. Alien warships fell one by one. Fire streaked across the void, and the galaxy's balance trembled. But then came the shadows. From the edge of the system, the unknown fleet advanced. Their ships were unlike anything seen before, jagged silhouettes forged for slaughter. They radiated power older and darker than either side. They were not allies. They were predators drawn to blood. The void shook as their weapons unleashed, beams of violet energy that sliced through both human and Empire vessels alike. Entire cruisers dissolved into nothingness, their screams lost in the silence of space. The battle of two powers had become the war of three. On the Eternity, alarms screamed. Officers scrambled, their voices overlapping in panic. Unknown signatures approaching at attack speed. Shields collapsing on the outer ring. Multiple fleets hit, both human and alien. The commander stood unmoving, his eyes locked on the display as the three forces tore into each other. "Identify them," he demanded. The sensors gave no answers. No language, no code. Only death, an officer whispered, "Sir." They came to feast. The commander's jaw tightened. "Then we show them we are not prey." Across the battlefield, the Empire's Admiral Koresh stared at the new arrivals in horror. These were not allies of humanity, nor were they mercenaries of the Empire. They were a power beyond them both. He saw his fleets dying under their fire. He saw humanity too, bleeding yet refusing to yield. And in that moment, Koresh understood a truth the Council had never spoken. If these shadows consumed the battlefield, neither Empire nor human would remain. The skies above Earth blazed, humanity struck with fury. Their hidden fleets hammering the Empire's armada, while drones swarmed the unknown invaders. Yet the newcomers fought with terrifying precision, their weapons draining shields, their ships regenerating even as they burned. On Earth's surface, billions huddled underground, feeling the tremors of orbital bombardments shaking the planet. Yet still, their voices rose in defiance. Songs, prayers, chants, every bunker echoed with the same word, fight. On the Eternity, the commander made his choice. Patch me through to the Empire fleet. The officers froze, eyes wide. To speak to the enemy in the middle of battle was madness. Yet they obeyed. A moment later, Admiral Koresh's scarred face filled the screen. His mandibles trembled with rage, and something else, fear. "You dare contact me while your fleets slaughter mine?" The human commander's voice was steady. "You and I both know what's coming. If we fight each other, we both die. If we fight them together, we live long enough to finish this war later, Koresh hissed. Silence followed. Then slowly he gave a single nod. Very well, human. For survival. Nothing more. The battlefield changed in an instant. Human ships and alien cruisers, once locked in mortal combat, pivoted in unison. Their weapons turned on the invaders. For the first time in centuries, humanity and the Empire fought side by side. Orbital rings unleashed firestorms that tore holes in the Predator fleet. Alien titans flanked alongside human dreadnoughts, their combined broadsides shaking the stars. Drones and fighters, both human and alien, swarmed the enemy's hulls like locusts. For the first time, the Predators faltered, but victory was not simple. At the heart of the invading fleet, a colossal vessel loomed. Larger than any human or alien ship, it pulsed with violet energy. Its weapons split the void, disintegrating ships with every blast. It was their leader, their hive, their god of war. On the Eternity, the commander's eyes hardened. "That ship falls, or we all burn," Koresh's voice hissed over comms. "Then we strike it together." The charge began. Human dreadnoughts led the way, their cannons blazing. Empire carriers launched wave after wave of bombers. Drones sacrificed themselves in blinding detonations across the monster's shields. The void became a storm of fire. The Predator ship roared back, tearing holes through the Allied fleets, splitting dreadnoughts apart, consuming entire squadrons in violet flame. Yet still, humanity pushed forward. The Eternity broke through the wreckage, its weapons pouring everything into the Predator's heart. The alien flagship of Koresh fought beside it, spewing fire until its hull cracked and split apart. Finally, the combined fire pierced the monster's core. The Predator ship howled without sound as it tore apart in a sunburst of violet fire. The shockwave rattled every ship across Sol. For a moment, silence followed. The unknown fleet broke, scattered, and vanished into the dark. They were not destroyed, but they were driven off. The battlefield was quiet at last. Wreckage drifted. Fires burned across space. Both human and alien fleets floated in ruin. On the Eternity, the commander exhaled, his shoulders heavy. They had survived. But he knew what came next. Admiral Koresh's scarred face flickered back onto the screen. His eyes were filled with exhaustion, but also certainty. "Our war is not over, human." The commander nodded slowly. "No, it has only begun." The transmission cut. On Earth, crowds poured from the bunkers. They saw the sky clearing, wreckage burning as it fell through the atmosphere. They saw humanity's fleet still alive, still defiant. For the first time in centuries, the people of Earth looked upward with pride. Not as survivors, but as the reborn. The galaxy had seen their fire. The Empire had tasted their fury. And the Predators lurking in the void had learned a truth older than any star. Humanity does not die. Humanity returns.